It's lights out, everybody, and welcome back to the Low Downforce podcast, the For-Friend Formula One podcast. What a race we just had coming you from the coast of the Netherlands. Of course, it was the Dutch Grand Prix, but that is nothing. That means nothing. What's really exciting is Matt is back on the podcast. The three amigos. We're still missing J9. She is on vacation out of the country. She is enjoying it as much as anybody, so don't blame her for missing the pod. But Matt,
she's still on summer break.
Living. But Matt, you're back. How are we doing? We missed you so much.
Yeah, doing well. Glad to be back. And, it was a more opportune time to be out of town and miss a few episodes with the summer break. So think it's about time to get back into it. It was an interesting race, and we'll get into that in a second. But it was a thriller to get back into.
Yeah, you made it back just in time. Certainly worth chatting about. How much so, we will find out imminently. Josh, we always start off with that rating out of 10, that quick review. How did you feel about the Dutch Grand Prix?
Do you want the race rating from me as a Ferrari fan or the race rating
Give me the
from me
Ferrari
as a Formula
fan
One
and the
fan?
non-Ferrari fan in you.
Ferrari fan, I'm going to go, I was going to say 10, but no. Obviously, Ferrari did horrible. 0 for Ferrari fan. But as a non-Ferrari fan, it would probably be like a 9. This was a great race. There was a lot of action, some controversy, some just good racing. But I mean, Ferrari doubled the MF is just horrible. Maybe this is actually a blessing in disguise because I can stop caring about Ferrari this year. I can start just enjoying.
Oh, is it? We're into the next year is our year phase of Ferrari fandom.
Exactly.
There you go.
What about you, Matt?
Yeah, I think 8.5, 9. The safety cars, rookie podium, and it was entertaining, to be honest. And I know that we've had some crazy races, and this wasn't absolutely bonkers, but there were quite a few moments to watch out for.
Yeah, I went 8 out of 10, and it's no disrespect to the Dutch Grand Prix because you guys rated a little bit higher. I think on track, I think you changed the names around, but the same driving. I don't think it's that insane of a race, but when you actually look at the big picture, this is probably my favorite race of the year. It might be one of my favorites since I've really become a Formula One fan, which is saying a lot because my favorite driver, we'll talk about it more, but he has to retire with an engine failure right at the end of the race. Huge driver implications, huge championship implications, all of that. Matt, you teased it though. Obviously, the headline is, in fact, Isaac Hadjar, P3, his first Formula One podium. He becomes the youngest Frenchman to ever podium in Formula One and the 5th youngest of anybody to podium in Formula One. And an interesting stat to go along with it is all 5 of the youngest podium sitters are all currently on the grid. So clearly it's telling you that talent is emerging much earlier now. The scouts are doing their job clearly. But yeah, I think this is my favorite race of the year. We'll get into it a little bit more. Josh, I know you got the race recap for us, just the stat sheet, if you will.
Yeah, Oscar Piastri with the win. You mentioned extending his lead on Lando Norris. Verstappen 2, Hadjar 3, George Russell 4th, Alex Albon 5th, Ollie Behrman a good drive 6th, Lance Stroll 7th, beat his teammate Fernando Alonso by 1 place, who was in 8th, Yuki Tsunoda getting points in 9th, and Esteban Ocon, double points for Haas, in 10th. Colapinto just missed out. No Ferraris there, like I said. Both Charles and Lewis out of the race, did not finish. Lando also did not finish. Oscar had the fastest lap. Wow, I totally forgot names. Carlos Sainz got a penalty for bumping Liam Lawson. Antonelli, I believe, had 2 penalties of his own. So I feel like I missed one, but maybe
the only penalty you missed doesn't really apply to the Dutch Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton got a 5-place grid penalty. We didn't find out about this until hours after the race, but for speeding in the formation laps, the instructors,
they're making up fake rules now to try and take down
there
Ferrari.
was a clear yellow.
Well, it was double yellow actually. So that was the issue.
Yeah.
Is the steward said with the layout of the track, because of the pit lane, which had an increased speed limit this year, that on the formation laps there would be double yellow flags around the last turn, which means you have to significantly reduce your speed. They said compared to practice sessions, Lewis only reduced his speed there by about 20 kilometers, which they deemed not enough. But because none of this comes out until after the race, the only way they can punish him is a 5-place grid penalty, which is the worst because the next race is the Italian Grand Prix. Of course, one of Ferrari's home Grand Prix. The Tifosi go nuts there. And so now even if Lewis grabs pole, he's not starting that race any higher than P6.
Yeah, there's an agenda against Ferrari right now. Clearly, they want us to. They're disqualifying us. They're making us crash. No, just kidding. But yeah, I mean, from bad to worse for Lewis Hamilton, and hopefully he can have a good next race. But we'll cover that in the preview.
But if you can't tell, a lot of things to talk about from this race. We're going to jump into our track take, see if that takes us in the direction of some of those, and we will swing back to cover any of the big storylines we've missed. But Matt, we're going to jump to you first. What was your track take about the season, about the race that you saw on Sunday that gives you an idea?
Well, with the form, both just from the V-Carb car in general and Isaac Hadjar, and also the kind of spotty form from Antonelli, I think that I'm not saying that Hadjar will be the top scoring rookie, but I think that this could be decided in the last, couple races of the season who's the top scoring rookie if the momentum holds, right? So it's got to retain that momentum. But Hadjar and Antonelli now both have a podium this season, right? So it's something where I thought Antonelli was going to be the clear number one candidate. It's a lot of ground for Isaac to make up, but if he has more weekends like this, it's not going to be too long before he's neck and neck.
I think I'll agree with that. I'll green flag it. Antonelli has been super inconsistent this year. I think he scored 1 point in his last 5, and before that he had a few races where he didn't score any points either. So really apart from that podium in Canada, he's kind of had a not a great year. But Isaac Hadjar has been consistently good all year. And maybe part of it is expectation based. Nobody expected Hadjar to be as good as he is. Everyone expected Antonelli to probably be better than he is. But either way, yeah, I could totally see this coming down to the wire.
I'm going yellow flag just because we said this about Mercedes last year of they'd be bad, and then they'd win a race. Kimi Antonelli gets one more podium or even a top 4, a top 5, and that's that many more points for a V-Carb that's good but not consistently in the top 5. But kind of adjacent to that, I got to walk back some of my words because last race, when it was just Josh and I, one of my takes was that, no, Hadjar's doing great, but Bortoletto is going to be Rookie of the Year. I think, flipping the script almost as quickly as I said it, I think that this cements Isaac Hadjar being Rookie of the Year. I mean,
I think we still have a lot of season left.
But I can't think of many cars that are in the position to grab a podium from the midfield. A lot of things happened here. I don't know, unless a Bortoletto grabs a podium as well, Isaac Hadjar is probably going to wind up with the most impressive podium this year. He certainly is so far. And so then I think the other thing worth noting, and this is no disrespect to Nico Hülkenberg because that was an awesome podium. The whole sport loved it, is both of them required luck, but Nico really fought his way up for this podium. Isaac Hadjar qualified P4 in a V-Carb and didn't put a foot wrong. All it took was Lando having an engine failure to move out of a podium spot, but he wasn't fighting for it. He kept George Russell behind him. Ferraris were stuck behind him, not fighting, but he really didn't have to do that much defense either. He was comfortably on the podium, really. So
what are the chances that the 2 rookie podiums this year are both caused by Lando Norris not finishing the race?
That's a good point. Even though Lando wasn't threatening for a podium in Canada.
Yeah.
I do think, though, Josh, for our sake, and Matt, you can be in it as well because you're a McLaren fan like me. Josh and I in Canada, that was the most tragic race of the year for our teams up to that point. I think this is the new tragic one for us.
Yeah.
Favorite driver DNFing, Josh, your entire team DNFing. But we talked about some of the headlines. I want to jump to Matt. You mentioned Kimi Antonelli. My track take is that Williams is going to cross the 100-point threshold this year. And the reason that Kimi Antonelli is involved in that is Alex Albon. So Williams is on 80 points, or only 20 points away. Alex Albon is now tied on points with Kimi Antonelli in the Drivers' Championship, both of them with 64 points. Alex Albon started P15, made up 10 positions to P5 in this race. Kimi Antonelli, with his penalties, dropped completely out of the points. And so, one, Mercedes is in a different league as a whole. George Russell is obviously carrying that team, maybe more so than some people expected. But it seems like points are on. It seems like the midfield is able to grab points. 80 points so far. Alex Albon carrying 80% of those points with 64. 20 more points over the next 9 races. We still have 3 more sprints to go. I think Williams can cross that triple-digit threshold.
I'm going to yellow flag that because I think it's possible, but if it happens, it will not be because of Carlos Sainz. He has struggled all year to A, get into the points, and B, just drive consistently. And Alex Albon has had a great year. So if they do it, it will be entirely because of him, because Carlos has not had a great year.
Well, before we jump to you, Matt, do you think, obviously Carlos Sainz, you mentioned, picks up the 10-second penalty for the bump with Lawson. He was dumbfounded by finding out he had the penalty. Do you think that was, when I watched it, maybe there was just
hard.
Some of the bias that I was hearing from the commentators. I don't think he wasn't at fault, but like it felt more egregious than what Carlos did.
Yeah, but is 10 seconds the minimum penalty for that, or could they have given a 5?
I think
because
we've seen 5. It's been like all FIA stewards, it's been inconsistent, but it's hard because you can't really call that like a racing incident because it's so avoidable. But almost like both drivers were in the wrong. I felt like both could have driven that turn 1 better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I also am going to yellow flag this, not saying that it's definitely not a red flag. Williams has the potential to do it. I think a lot of it will just simply rest on Albon's shoulders. I know Carlos is a talented driver. We saw that last year at Ferrari. But at the end of the day, I do think it rests on Albon's shoulders to get them there. And while it's possible, I don't know. I just feel like the team consistency is not going to guarantee that. I would, I don't know. I was thinking green at first, maybe just a bit more yellow, just because I just don't know what to expect with Williams, to be honest.
Okay, my track take isn't as much of a take, and it's more of a conspiracy theory. So you guys are both McLaren fans, so I need you guys to weigh on this. I think Lando's engine failing is an inside job. I think they don't. Hear me out. I think the higher ups at McLaren don't want to have to deal with this driver battle, and they're trying to. Lando is like the favorite on paper, but I think they know Oscar is the true talent, and he needs to be the one that is leading the team. And so I think, call me conspiracy, call me crazy, I think Lando is maybe intentionally getting his engine blown up so that they can increase the gap and that Oscar can be solidly the number 1 driver.
Not only am I giving this a red flag, I'm also giving you the black flag, Josh. Disqualified. I think the conspiracy thing is nuts. I think it's so funny the internet is like, oh, Zach Brown is happy when Lando wins. Andrea Stella is happy when Oscar wins. Obviously, there's the team battle. It's interesting because, I mean, obviously the worst thing for me as a fan is seeing Lando DNF, especially with the championship implications. Oscar turns a 9-point lead into a 34-point lead, the largest we've seen in the championship so far this year. And I had in my notes as one of my other track takes, but I'll just kind of state it as opinion, is unfortunately, I think the Drivers' Championship is over. I think Oscar's been too consistent it's a combination of him being too consistent and also the rest of the grid not being good enough that we're not seeing Oscar get a first and Lando get a fourth, or Lando get a first and Oscar get a fifth. If one of them wins, the other is almost always 1 position behind them, maximum 2, and it just doesn't allow for a lot of point swings. But with all of that being said, I think that might be the best thing to happen to me this year. You guys know I'm a Lando fan. I'm a McLaren fan first. I'm obviously Lando's my favorite, but this race kind of reminded me once that happened, there's so much else to like in Formula One. We've talked about Hadjar's podium. We've talked about the rookies doing great things. Ollie Behrman went from the pit lane start, dead last pit lane start to P6. We saw, Kimi Antonelli, we saw his podium in Canada. There's great rookies on the grid. And so the fact that I can watch each race a little less stressed about this is vital for this person's championship, this is vital for Lando's championship, this is vital for Oscar's championship, and now it's McLaren's going to win the constructors. We've known that. But I can cheer for some of the midfield teams, cheer for some of the drivers, pay attention to other parts of it. And I think it's also in some ways good for Lando, because I think Lando can now either just balls to the wallet. He has to be perfect over the last 9 races to win this championship. So either, for all the hate he gets on the internet, either he's going to find something and very much become a deserving champion, or he's not going to get there, but some of the pressure is off because a lot of the internet, a lot of history is going to be like, this was close until Lando had a mechanical failure that he couldn't control, and then that changed. So I think in some ways, the way people were talking about after Montreal, his crash, he came back a lot stronger from. I think he's going to come back with a different mindset. Is it better? Only time will tell, but he's going to have a different strategy because he'll have to if he wants any chance of this championship. But I think he's also now going to be more open to accepting if the championship doesn't go his way, that this is just how the cookie crumbles, as they say.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, red flag on the grounds that who would throw that. But I almost wanted to invent an orange flag for this because like you said, Ben, it kind of just sets the tone for the rest of the season. Like Lando can go all out, or they can just kind of ride the high, let Oscar have one hell of a season. I mean, they're up just incredibly in the constructors. So I don't see them, too worried about just trying to push both drivers and make this great battle. I mean, could it be good for Drive to Survive for them to have this big feud and, battling it out? Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, they can kind of just coast to, I not entirely coast, right? But it does, with that whole mechanical failure, just kind of make things a little bit clearer. We know how the season's going to end up for the most part.
We do at least get to appreciate, I think, with this, if McLaren hadn't basically locked up the Constructors' Championship with this gap, in a different year, if Max Verstappen is close, if George Russell is close, there would be no more on-track battles with the McLarens. They would say, Oscar's out in front, and that's it. And Lando, you just got to follow team orders. Now we're at the point, and I think we're very lucky, and I think in hindsight we'll appreciate it, even if one team domination isn't as fun as maybe what we saw last year and things like that, is at least we have it where, because Lando and Oscar are so competitive and so close, and because McLaren is so far ahead of everybody else, McLaren, I think, is going to let them still fight on track. Because,
sure,
I mean, other than, I guess, the financial burden of crashing cars, which, despite all of the battles we've seen, there hasn't really been that much of other than Canada, they've got nothing to lose. They're going to win the Constructors. Their drivers are going to finish 1-2 in the championship. And so, let them do the battling. If Lando needs to bring the fight now, he'll bring the fight, and it either will work or it won't. But there's not that much risk to the team, which I think in hindsight, we're going to be very appreciative of. Otherwise, these last 9 races could very much turn into kind of the formality.
Does Lando learn that he is not the number one driver? Like, when does that happen? Because at some point, he's going to have to accept he is in the best car and he is not going to win the championship. And I feel like he is going to either become a really good number 2 driver and commit to that role, or he's going to keep putting pressure on himself to be the number 1. And Lando Norris and pressure don't always go together.
That's the trickiest part I have to figure out. And Josh, you can probably relate to this too with Charles Leclerc, is Max has always been in the Red Bull family, but there's been a lot more rumor about him leaving. Lando and Charles show a level of loyalty that is not as common in the sport. And I don't know for certain, but as long as Lando has a shot at the championship, not to say he's going to win, not to say that he's better
Lando
than
has
Oscar.
no reason to leave.
Not only does he have no reason to leave, I think he would rather be a good number 2 at McLaren. Unless there's a team that outright is like, unless we get like a 2021 Red Bull where it's like, okay, this team, if I go there, I can win the championship and I have really good odds.
Well, why would he do that? He can win the championship at McLaren. Like, that is the team, and he's not doing it.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is like, unless Ferrari comes out with the best car by far in the new regs, and they're like,
no seats open.
Exactly. But you get my point. Like, I think there is a stronger level of loyalty in drivers like Lando and Charles that unless a perfect situation, that's what I'm getting at. Unless a perfect situation at another team comes, I could see them, fighting for the wins here and there, but maybe not the championship at the team they're loyal to. Maybe it's come sooner than Lando expected, but like we talked about earlier, Lando's gotten to win his home race with McLaren. Lando's gotten to win Monaco. He's going to be remembered as the one that brought the team back to the constructors last year. Like, he's very much cemented himself as a legend within the team. But is that enough? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But Dems de berries, we keep it moving, of course, as we always do. I feel like before we jump into our top and flop, how we normally round out our episodes, I'm trying to think, are there any headlines we missed? We mentioned Ollie Behrman and Alex Albon with their great runs. Lance Stroll is the other one that deserves credit in that conversation, making up 12 positions from P19 to P7. But other than that, I guess, actually, I will say this to Josh, because I know you've had a struggle weekend as a Ferrari fan. I know you said at one point you turned it off before turning it back.
After Hamilton crashed, I turned the race off.
It's going to get totally buried. It has gotten totally buried because Antonelli wound up crashing Charles Leclerc out of the race. Charles Leclerc had maybe my favorite overtake I've ever seen, where he literally puts two wheels in the gravel. And I don't know if they decided not to give a penalty, or they said they'd review it after the race. I don't think they did. And maybe that's because he did crash out of the race. So it's like, what's the point of giving it now? But in terms of legality, the stewards didn't come out and say it was illegal. It was the most aggressive, balls to the wall, aggressive overtake I've ever seen. And it put a smile on my face. It was sick to see.
So I think Charles gets away with that because he's Charles. If Max Verstappen pulls that move, or George Russell or something like that, like
50 penalty points, year suspension.
Immediately, like, enemy number one. So it was an awesome move, but I think Charles got a little benefit of the doubt.
I thought
there.
surely, though, like, because I mean, obviously there was a little bit of contact with George, who was obviously then carrying a little bit of damage the rest of the race. But I thought, like, surely Charles is going to lose full control of this car, take them both out of the race. And the fact that from the angles I saw, he barely kept, like, he stayed within track limits, barely, but I mean, did so even with the wheels on the gravel to do that, what I thought was so impressive. But then, like you said, both Ferraris DNFing, Lando DNFing. It's weird, though, and this is kind of why, going back to the very beginning when I said I gave the race an 8 out of 10, we had 3 safety cars, and only one of them was caused by a multi-car collision. We had Lewis losing control of his car, crashing at turn 3. That's one safety car. Then we get the interesting one, Kimi Antonelli rushing out of the pit lane, unnecessarily taking Charles out at the same spot, turn 3. Now both Ferraris are out. And then Lando reports a weird smell and smoke. A couple seconds later, we see the full engine go, and then he pulls off, hops out. And then we get some of the best memes of the year with Charles and Lando.
That is my top.
All the aura forming.
I'm glad you took it because I have sand dunes as my top, as one of my tops as well. But you take it, Josh.
Matt, you just said it. My top is aura farming. You crash out of the race and you just sit on the dunes and look like a badass.
I will say Charles looked like he had been there before. He looked so at home and depressed on top of one of those sand dunes.
Oh my. One thing, this is not my top. I mean, we could say, let me just go for it. Oscar is a very clear, top performance in the race. takes the pole position after Lando dominated practice and qualifying up until that point. This is Oscar's first Grand Slam, and he also, I believe, ties Mark Webber for career wins. So, I mean, it's just a big weekend for Oscar. Not necessarily the most dramatic. Leading a race start to finish, he didn't have that much going on except for racing in clean air a lot of the time.
I mean, that's how you know he's good, right? These aren't like dramatic wins. He's just in control. Like you mentioned, for those who don't know, Grand Slam, they don't happen that often anymore. We saw it with Lewis. We saw it with Max in their domination eras. But it is lead every lap, take pole, fastest lap, and of course, the win, which he did all 4 of those things. Grand Slam, the Grand Chelem, some people say as well. It's McLaren's first in the 21st century. So, again, you tell me this part of the season, Oscar's up 34 points, it makes sense. Obviously, it feels shocking now because Lando DNF. That's a huge point swing. It's the biggest of the season between the two of them so far. But you look at Oscar's performances, you say he's up by 34 points at this point in the season. I don't think anybody's that surprised. And I know, jumping to my top, we've said it a bunch of times, but you have to give it to Isaac Hadjar. I mean, he also got driver of the day on the TV. I feel like, especially after last year, we had 7 different race winners. We had so many different drivers scoring points, scoring grand performances, that we kind of expected that this year. And then all of a sudden, it didn't happen. We had McLaren dominance. Ferrari backed off a little bit. But then everybody thought, oh, Kimi Antonelli's the one. He's only gotten to sniff it one time. And now, again, shocking by far because he's the first out of the big teams. He's the first in a midfield car. He does it. And I talked about it earlier, but he doesn't even really take part in FP2 because of an engine problem. And then is literally flawless the rest of the weekend. I mean, it's not just getting P3. It's impressive. Obviously, like we've talked about, a tiny bit of luck involved. But he qualifies P4. And he doesn't have to fight anybody that hard to stay in P4 and then takes advantage of the DNF in front of him. It's about as good and weirdly routine of a performance as you can get for a team that's not expected to be that high up the grid. And those are the tops, unfortunately. With everything, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That means we have to knock people down a peg or two just to keep things moving. That, of course, brings us to the flops. And I'm going to go, Josh, you went for the funny one on the top, so I got to lock it in before you steal it. I'm flopping the trophies once again because we witnessed, if there was one flaw, and I'm not even sure it was really his flaw, Isaac Hadjar's trophy broke. I saw the video. He just set it down, and it broke. It seemed a lot more mild than Lando Norris, who full champagne bottle pop shattered Max's Hungarian Grand Prix trophy last year. But there isn't a pretty epic picture, I will say. Maybe this is kind of a top of him just being like lifted up holding half the trophy that he has left. But definitely got to work on get some of the structural engineers that are working on the cars to help out with the trophies sometimes. That might keep them intact a little better.
I think they're a little busy working on cars for the new regulations next year. My flop is Pierre Gasly. Was last place of the finishers, just not a good result. And now he has only out-finished Franco Colapinto 4-3. And if Colapinto ties it up, or even happens to finish down the stretch stronger than Pierre Gasly, that's pretty concerning because Colapinto started pretty badly.
I assume
I feel like
Alpine
within
has
Alpine,
put
there's
every single resource into next year's car at this point.
But
I'm also curious how many more races before Flavio Briatore just decides to hop behind the wheel himself.
Yeah. Pierre still is out qualifying Colapinto 7-2, but yeah, in the races, Gasly has just not been it recently.
Fair enough. For another driver who I think is, and I was really harsh on Lewis earlier in the season, but just not a great weekend for him. DNFs, okay, maybe there was a slick track and not necessarily the ideal conditions for him, but between the penalty and just totally crashing out on his own, it's a little bit of a disappointing result, especially going into a big weekend for them in Monza. This is not very good momentum, not good juju for him to be coming in with. So I don't know. I hope to see better from him.
I don't even
more
think it's
this
like
season.
bad juju going into it, right? It's quite much more literal than that, right? He can't even really put this weekend completely behind him because he still has a 5 grid place penalty to serve. So it's not even, oh, bad weekend, get over it. That's something Charles can do. That's something Lando can do. Lewis is stuck with, he can do great in qualifying. He can have the best qualifying of his year and still not be in a position that he wants to come actual race day because of that penalty. But maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I might have to flop myself in the predictors championship that we got going on. I seem to clock that not too many of us did all that great in the predictions. Some better than others, but Josh is the one who has the actual breakdown for us.
Yeah, it is. At least we're getting a good race here down the stretch. You were right. You, me, and J9 each got 1 point, so we're struggling. But Matt with 5 points,
Woo!
and I'm still in the lead. I still am out there with 30 points. You have 29, Matt, so you are right behind me. I thought I had a huge lead, but you are right here. J9 with 23, and Ben, you are just way behind with 18.
What was
so
your Matt? Did Matt get his hot take right?
Yeah, he said 2 of the top 7 on the grid will DNF. And
wow,
that was
exactly how you drew it up, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Honestly, if Lando hadn't had that late DNF, I would have gotten everything right. I mean, likely. Yuki was in a good position to be in P10 at the end of that race, and he ended up in P9. So slot in Lando at P2, I would have gotten Max P3. I would have gotten Yuki P10.
You would have had the Grand Slam.
Oh yeah, and I would have had the lead. But
yeah,
you know.
So I guess the moral of the story is I'm the biggest flop of the week.
Your hot take of McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes all missing a car in Q3.
They all made it.
They all made it. I said there would be 1 or fewer DNF. That was
I can't
not
lie.
Close at all.
Because I knew that my hot take didn't hit by Saturday. Oh, as soon as I started seeing the DNFs rack up, I was like, "Oh, keep them coming. Can't let Josh get away
J9
with it."
J9 was close, predicting that Lando would have an incident with somebody in DNF. He just didn't have the incident.
If she just said DNF, she just had to qualify it. But hopefully. Hopefully we get J9 back soon. We will be back very soon because, of course, we got back-to-back races. We are headed, as we hinted at, we are heading to Monza, the Temple of Speed. Who doesn't want to go there? It's the fastest sport on earth, and we're going to the Temple of Speed. It is the Italian Grand Prix. Ferrari fans are going to grasp for any hope that they can. Maybe they can pull one out last year, but that means we immediately after this episode have a predictions episode coming up, so you will want to keep running with us. At this point, who knows what to predict in any race? It's certainly worth watching all of them, tuning in with us before and after. So until then, everybody, stay speedy. Goodbye.